Hey guys, Coach Travis Smash. This week we're talking about the rate of perceived exertion and velocity together. How do you combine those two to have a little bit less subjectivity in play here? So let's go over, first let's start by kind of going over both a little bit. In short, the Borg scale. RPE is a subjective measure of how hard you believe that you're working, for exercise. Essentially, your internal gauge or effort is what we're talking about. It was developed by the Swedish psychologist Gunnar Borg in the 1960s. Originally, it was more of a 6 to 20 type scale. More recently, we're looking at 1 to 10. It's become a very trusted mechanism for determining exercise intensity. However, my guy, Coach Mike Toshirer, I would like to credit him for bringing it more into the strength conditioning world, the powerlifting world. If you don't know him, you should. He's a great guy. And there's a couple ways to look at this thing. Like what does, RPE 10, 9, 8, what does that mean? And simply put, in the world of weightlifting or strength conditioning, RPE 10 means that's a max, dude. That's all you got. RPE 9 means there's 1 repetition left in the tank. RPE 8 means 2 repetitions are left in the tank, and so forth. And so it's a great way of telling a person to, instead of saying some percentage, it's just a way of taking into consideration the fatigue levels on that day. Because as we've already established here, any given day, a person's 1RM can be up or down anywhere between 15 and 18%. So it's a pretty big swing. And so this kind of takes that into consideration. Most recently, though, there's a little bit more, way to dial things in a little closer, because there's the RPE 10, once again, is a max lift, but then you can do RPE 9.5. So could have gone heavier instead of like RPE 9 being, there's definitely 1 repetition left in the tank. RPE 9.5, there might be. Or I would even say, you could say it like this, like RPE 9.5, I couldn't do another rep, but I could have gone a little heavier. So it's just a little way, a way of breaking down just a little bit clearer or a little bit more specific. RPE 8, there's 2 repetitions left to take for sure. RPE 8.5, there's 2 more repetitions that might be left in the tank. And so you can do the same thing all the way down to RPE 6. But still, it's super subjective, you guys, which has always been my problem. I will see somebody post their deadlift, and they'll be like, it's an RPE 6. And I'm like, brother, it took you 10 seconds to do that lift. That's a max, 100% max. And so, for one thing, young athletes haven't lifted enough to be able to use this subjective table. They just don't know their body or the way a lift should feel well enough to make those determinations. So here's a little table you guys can see. It's a way of looking at how for most people, like an RPE 1 for 1 rep is of course 100%. An RPE 9 is somewhere around 96%, a 9.5, 97.5%. Now this is not going to take into consideration everybody. It's just going to say for most people, this is where people fall. An RPE 8.5 on a 2 rep max is going to be 90% probably. An RPE 2 RM at 9 RPE is probably 92%. A 9.5 RPE is 94%, and so forth. So I built this little chart for you guys. You can use that. But let's talk about getting it a little bit more specific, man. So like instead of saying work up to an RPE of 9, how about you just say, look, work up to a 1RM at 0.29 meters per second. Now, what do I know? Now let me be clear. This is what you're looking at here. This is for my athletes. This is for elite strength athletes. It's, most people that you deal with are going to fail the squat around 0.3. So this is for my athletes specifically. So, but if you work with elite weightlifters and powerlifters, you can probably look at this one. But so what I would say is tell my guys, hey, work up to a 3 RM at 0.41 meters per second. That means that's going to get them at a 9 RPE. If you go up here and look at it, that is probably around 89%. And normally, that's the way I prescribe my programming. I will say work up to a 3 RM at 9 RPE. I'll say probably it's going to be 89 or 87.5%, whatever you want to tell them. And normally it's going to take you to 0.41 meters per second. And so what that does, it starts to, not only will it give them more than one option, because if you don't have velocity, then you got to use RPE or you got to use percentages. But what it does is for the people who have velocity, they start to learn what a 9 RPE should feel like. And so we're teaching them as well. And so now this is what I use for squatting, like a 5 rep max at 9 RPE is going to be around 0.46 meters per second, which is also, if you want to know the percentages, it's going to be around 83.5%. Now, for the bench and deadlift, a little bit different. The velocity is going to be a little bit slower. All right, with the bench and deadlift, the thing about it, just the natural range of motion is shorter on the bench and the deadlift. Not to mention with the bench press, you got smaller muscle groups. With the squat, you got the glutes, hamstrings, quads, obviously much bigger. The deadlift, you have the same big muscle groups, but you got the short range of motion. Plus, you don't have the stretch reflex happening with the deadlift. So there's that too. So the velocity, of course, is not going to be the same. So I made you the same cheat sheet. So once again, it's the same percentage is going to correlate. So a 1 RM, 10 RPE, 100%, of course. But for the bench and deadlift, your terminal velocity is going to be around 0.18. So, and then the 9.5, 0.2. Let's look at the 3 RM. Some common ones I use is like for the 5s and the 3s. But so if you're looking at a 3 RM on the bench or the deadlift, 9 RPE. Normally it's going to be around 86% and about 0.32 meters per second is what you're looking at. And so if you're looking at the 5 RM at 9 RPE, it's going to be it's about 0.36 meters per second, and it's going to be around 83.5%. So it's just a great way of programming, and instead of saying an RPE, a 9, and right away, especially if we got high school our teenage athletes, they're maxing out is what's going to happen. And so by giving them a velocity, you give them something to shoot for other than the load on the bar. And so now everyone's going to try to do as much as they can for that velocity versus trying to see who can do the most for 5. Everyone's trying to win, man. Those teenage athletes. So I made you guys a cheat sheet all the way up to for 10 reps and the RPEs all the way down to 6.5. I don't think you need to like a 6 RPE. If you're going to do a 6 RPE, just go light. Basically, then it's okay to use percentages. I think at that point, or just use really high velocities. So, but anyway, there's your cheat sheets. There's how it goes together. In the subjectivity, guys, and I hope these things really help you guys, these tools I made for you. One thing I want to clarify, when I say a 5 RM, work up to a 5 RM at 0.48 meters per second, that's in reference to the first 1 to 2 reps. And so it's not reference to the average of the whole thing. You can do that, but just know that I wrote this in a way that it's in reference to the first 1 to 2 of the fastest reps. That's what it's in reference to. So some people will make their velocity prescriptions in reference to the whole thing as an average. Mine is to the first 2 to 3 fastest reps. All right, so roll with that. Anyway, that's what we like to do here at GymAware. Try to make your life easier. Anyway, GymAware.com for all of your velocity-based training needs. You can use code MASH5 to get a little bit of a discount, you guys. And always, if you want to check out any of my stuff, MashElite.com. Thanks, guys. Also, at GymAware, I should say, go to GymAware.com in the blog section as well. That's where all of my articles and all of my videos are. So, and there we have every topic under the sun, though. So go check it out, guys. Thank you.